Hey everyone, we're going to be making this servo mount here, this green piece in the back. And all it does is hold the spacing there. It's held together with those wood dowels between that and the laser cut parts below it. Here is the drawing file if you want to be able to reference that for any of the dimensions as we go along. You can also just develop the part from this drawing file if that you have experience in that manner. So we're going to start with a part studio and start with a sketch. I think it's best to draw this on the front plane, and we're going to start with a square from the origin, so I'll make sure I'm clicking on that, and then I'm going to press the letter D so I can start dimensioning, and the sizes are going to be 2 inches by 3/4 inches. Then we're going to extrude our part. We're going to be going into the feature 0.325, and that's just found through working with the assembly and working with the printed model after the fact. Once that's done, we'll start a new sketch on our front face. Let's orient so we can look at it. I'm scrolling in so I can see it. I want to make 2 circles here, one right there and the other on the other side, and these are for those dowel rods that'll go in there. I'm going to work with these constraints, and so if you notice the horizontal line, it's when we're setting them horizontal to each other. So those both are now the same height. And now I'm going to put a dimension between that and the height so I can make them both raised the same amount. And that dimension is going to be 0.1875. And I'm going to set the size of the hole to be 0.25 for us. I do need to make sure that I set those to equal. So I want this circle to be the same size as that circle. And then my last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to develop a line, and I'm going to use a construction line. You'll see that it's different here. So we've got a dotted line here showing it's a construction line. I just pushed L there to restart that. And I'm doing another on the other side. They're both horizontal, and I'm going to set them to be equal. And so whenever I space one out, the other one will go that same spacing. And so then I can just sit here and adjust this one as 1/4 inch. Everything's black in my image, so I'm good to move forward. And I'm going to extrude this also. Let's go into isometric view. And we're going to change our direction there and make it a remove. And just go ahead. Now let's look at the back face here. And we're going to sketch on this back face right there. And the part that I'm going to sketch is just a combination of 2 rectangles. So we have the top rectangle, which is where the servo is going to mount into. And the bottom rectangle, really what that does is just give me thickness to attach to the 3D print. And I'm going to use the same thing with constraints a second ago. You can see when I hover, I get that little midpoint, the little line with a dot in the middle. I'm going to click on it, and I click on the midpoint above. And now I'm going to use a constraint here. I'm going to set that to vertical. And what that means is that that top rectangle is always going to be in the middle of my part here. Here I'm going to add in a vertical constraint between the 2 ends of my boxes so that they are the same width at all times. Now this number, the 0.806, actually comes from the assembly model I did earlier. And so that's something that I just sort of pulled out, or you could just sort of go through and adjust it. Now I'm going to make this 0.14, and then we're going to extrude it out. And the distance here is not as crucial. And so let's look at it. There we go. And what I want that distance to be is 0.375, so 3/8. Click check. Now with that in place, let's look at the other side. And we're going to sketch around that face right there to sort of make our box to put in the servo. So I've taken calipers or a ruler and I've measured out the size of the servo. And now I just want to put in the dimensions that reflect those and also have like decent amount of material on the size. So I feel like right here at the top, I feel like that's got to be about 0.1 to give us good thickness on the 3D print. Then we're going to add in our height of our box, which is 0.5, the width of our box, which is 1. That gives a little extra space there. And this is 0.2 for our sides. We can click check mark on that. And then we're just going to extrude, cut, and remove the part. And do through all. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to add holes to there. Same process we did earlier with the horizontal lines. We're just locking them in, setting them to be 0.5 apart, setting them to equal, and then setting the outside diameter to 0.07 and setting them equal. Once that's done, we can go in and extrude those out also. Now we're going to flip the part around, and we're going to add something called a chamfer on our back side here. And so we're just going to select that edge right there, and it's going to add a bevel for us. We're going to do 2 distances here, so 0.3275, and the other one's also going to be 0.375. So we could have done a single distance, but 2 distances is fine. And then our last step here is we're going to use the fillet tool and round some edges. So we're going to round these edges here at 0.1 just to make them look pretty. It's also going to make it a little easier to print. And then we're going to add a fillet on the back, and that's going to save us some material and just make it look a little bit more aesthetic and pull the material back from that hole. And so we're going to select this edge, the top, and the far side, and we're going to set that to be 0.25. And that's our final part.